locally. We are live. Cool. Okay, welcome everybody. This is the second installment of our Friday expose, where XP Property Jack and I will be going through our weekly exploits, what we've achieved, what we've learnt, and generally just talking about business and property in general. So we've got quite a packed agenda for today. We're going to be talking about one of the biggest schemes that we've bought to date, which we did a site tour around yesterday, looking at some of the Property Investor Awards aftermath and some of the interviews that we've done. We've got a couple of business focused stuff. So we've been interviewing this week for various roles within the businesses. We looked at our recap and our goals recap of 2022 and goals throughout 2023. And we'll be diving into a bit of all of that. So if you haven't joined us before, this weekly expose is just about in a fast-paced business like ours is in the property industry. It's hard to give yourself the space to look back at what you've achieved. So these weekly lives will just be a discussion of what we've gone through, the learnings that we've taken from it. It's a chance for you guys to ask any question about what we're up to. We're here to share. We're here to help you grow your business. That's the sort of main goal of this, so that you can hopefully take some learnings from what we've done and replicate that within your own business and learn from some of the things that we're getting up to vicariously. So Jack, do you want to say anything?
Thanks everyone for joining. Obviously we launched our pilot last week, and it's just to give you a rundown of what happens in all of our businesses. So it's property development, XP Property, measured building and topographical surveys, XP Surveys, property management and lettings, which is Central Suites, and also architectural practice, which is Aura. So it's a round robin of what we get up to in our businesses all in a week. And I think we should just get straight into it so we can get into the detail. How's my audio, Ben? Is that right?
Quite loud.
Okay.
I don't know if you can do anything about that. I mean, that might just be me, but it was a bit like that when you first came on, but no, all good. Cool. So what are we going to be talking about to start with? Tom stands for the Old Maltings. That is our latest scheme, our biggest scheme, and we are sort of super excited to be sharing details of this. It looks a little bit like this. It's currently 10,000 square feet of office space, and we're going to be converting it into a number of flats. We've already got permitted development to turn it into 16 flats. And the design team meeting that we had with the architect and a couple of other consultants yesterday was just to understand the implications of enhancing the scheme to at least 23 units is what we've got planned. I was going to do a little bit of a talk through our findings yesterday and what our plans are for the future. I don't want to go into huge amounts of detail. We did talk about this quite a bit last week in terms of how we secured it and how we've got the funding and how the process is structured, etc. So if you missed last week, tune in, go back and tune into that on our YouTube channel or on LinkedIn or all the various other platforms. But what I did want to have a quick flick through, and this is actually something that Jack hasn't even seen, so it's new to him as well, is our sort of work in progress package for the upgraded 23 unit scheme. So if I go back to these photos, you can see we've got these undercroft car parking areas here. We've got some plant area at ground floor on the right hand side and fair amount of car parking as well. So we've secured the conversion of these upper two levels to turn that from office into residential to 16 flats. We're going back in to enhance that to be at least 17 flats and add another, I think, 7 to 8 bedrooms, bed spaces by the time we're finished. But there's real added value on this lower level. So converting this undercroft and this plant area into a series of 4 additional flats, and then actually where these cars are to the rear, building a pair of Muse houses in this area. And that's what we'll be submitting for planning next. So these plans are, like I say, work in progress. Jack hasn't even seen these, but I wanted to sort of show you a little bit of where we're at. So this floor plan is the undercroft and the ground level. So what you can see here is, instead of undercroft parking, we've actually designed a number of flats all the way across this part of the building. The Muse houses are on the right hand side here, so it will be a sort of 3.5-story pair of semis. I get, well, not semis because they're attached here, but 2 Muse houses, some private amenity out the front, and we're still working around with the internal layouts on that. So we're getting 2 2-bed flats here, and 2 1-beds here out of the undercroft and the plant area, and then 2 extra Muse houses on the right hand side. Again, I'm not going to flick through all of these. I think, if anyone's got any questions, by the way, do ask. Oh, I said we want details of the design team meeting. Okay, I'll come on to that. Let's have a quick look at some of the elevations. So one of the key elevations is the photo really that I kind of shared with you guys, which is that sort of courtyard car park elevation. So that's the existing one where you can see all of these undercroft sort of gates. The plant area is here. And if I scroll down, the idea with this courtyard is something like this. So we're actually looking to add some balconies that kind of run all the way across here. There's a few changes that need to be made here to turn this window into a door, turn this window into a door, turn this window into a door, for example, coming off the kitchen, dining, living space. But fundamentally, the idea is to get some external amenity on the courtyard side, create some parking and some private gardens for these ground floor flats, and then build this this whole section here, which is the pair of Muse houses, which basically have kind of 3 stories and a loft level on the right hand side. So that's how we're hoping to go back in for planning, enhance the scheme from 16 units to 23, amongst going through some other planning process to get some extra bedrooms and extra floor space in the existing office as well. So yeah, any questions on that? James, what specifically do you want to know about the design team meeting? So design team meetings, from my perspective, are a chance to meet various consultants on site. So we had the architects there, we had the utilities consultant yesterday, doing a walkthrough, basically looking at every element of the property. It might spark something else that can add value or reduce build costs when you're walking around the site. And then fundamentally talking through the drawings and where they're at to try and improve them and move them on to the next phases. So that's what the design team meeting was all about. Our conversation with the utilities provider was actually really, really useful. So the incoming electricity mains is, from his perspective, looking at it, chunky enough to cater for the 17 flats that we want to do with the office conversion. So that's quite a big saving potentially in not having to bring in loads of new services. The only services that we're going to need to bring in are for the individual undercroft and Muse houses to the rear, which should save us quite a bit of money, which is great. Jack, anything you want to say about?
No, I'd say any listeners out there, go and watch our video last week and look at our socials. We've got quite exciting plans. And we also went into detail in last week's of how we secured that and how it's funded. So if there's anyone out there listening that wants to do 16 to 23 unit permitted development, commercial to resi flats, go and watch that video and you can sort of hear our structure and how we funded that. And obviously, if there's any questions directly, we're more than happy to help.
Yeah, cool. Next week, I will be going through how we've found about £500,000 worth of value up in this mezzanine space. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Good.
On to point 2.
Point 2.
So we were really fortunate to be nominated for an award at the Property Investor Awards. Shout out to Cyril and his team that put on that amazing ceremony and also event. And we, off the back of that, one of the other award winners, another shout out to Elizabeth Warburton, kindly pulled all of the winners together. And earlier today, Ben and I did a interview style video that will be launched through Property 118 with Elizabeth. We go into detail about our pasts, as in where Ben's flair came from and his skill set came from, where my flair and some of my skill sets come from. And then we went into detail, deep down into the numbers of the project and also what the plans are for XP. So keep your eyes out for that video. I'm sure we'll be sharing it across all of our platforms so that you can see that when it's live. Good. Next up, we got a question from James. Does a pair of Muse houses have to be physically connected to the existing building? Would they be worth slightly more if they were separate? I'll let you answer, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I think to separate them and lose maybe, a meter distance between the two properties might actually be 25-30 square meters that would be saleable space. And I think any extra value add by making them completely detached would probably not be sort of financially viable to lose that amount of space to actually make them detached. In this scenario, given the location and the surroundings, whether it's attached to the main building or separated, creating a semi-detached central unit, I don't think it really makes financial sense to do so. I think connecting them, I don't think from a financial perspective it would be worth it, to be honest.
Cool, good, well answered. Point number 3. Earlier this week we interviewed a quantity surveyor who had actually come through following us online through our channels and basically asked if we had or knew anyone that was looking for someone to come on board a small development company like ours to join the team and work predominantly on acquisitions. So we interviewed a QS earlier this week, went really positively. He's probably watching, so hello. It's I suppose the point we've got that in there is when you're in the current climate for recruitment, it's really difficult to get professionals with really good experience and that are very actively keen. Our last hire, which is Tom, our technical project manager, came purely from following us on socials too, and he's been a really good hire, and I hope he's watching too. So just a little bit out there. Remember, we're doing this for obviously sharing what we're doing. Hopefully we get to help others learn from what we're up to and our mistakes and our upsides. But also everyone's watching, so not just investors, contractors, potential employees, and that's just something, a bit of a takeaway from that. Next one, Ben.
Yep. As part of our site visit to Abingdon yesterday to visit the old maltings, we actually went to one of our other projects, which we secured last year and have been working on since the middle of 2021. Is St Helens Mill, which is this beautiful red brick old mill house. We got planning approval about, 9 months ago to extend and add about 5 dormers to the roof and extend the this area of the loft in the main part of the building. So taking it from a 2-bed into what will be a 4-bed HMO that will form part of the longer term investment plans. I'm trying to see if the photos I added yesterday are up. Yeah, so this is the scaffolding at the moment. Well, that's me. This is the scaffolding up on site at the moment. Quite a beastly scaffolding because it's got a top hat, so it goes all the way across the building. But ultimately, the roof is partially off. The steelwork will be going in next week, so hopefully I can get some photos of that or the week after. But anyway, this was actually the property that won Property Deal of the Year. So if you were tuning in earlier, we were talking about the Property Investor Awards. This was actually the deal that won it. So high level, we've spent, by the time we're finished, about £2 million all in on this project, and it should be worth in excess of 3.1, potentially 3.2 million once it's refinanced.
2022 recap and 2023 goals. So we did a late night shift, didn't we, Ben, on Monday in the office, where collectively we went through a bit of a recap of everything we've achieved in 2020, similar to this, but rather than it being a week, we did a year. And that will be edited and then back out with our lovely listeners to watch through in their own time. But in addition to that, we forecasted our goals for 2023, and we also shared some of our personal goals as well for a bit of fun. And Ben and I didn't look at each other's goals before we did it. So there's a few fun bits in there where we're learning about what each other are going to get up to this year.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. We should be launching that probably in 3 or 4 weeks time. So keep an eye out on YouTube and the various platforms. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. We've built it to kind of help educate and give an insight into what a property business looks like, and also the various other service-based businesses that we run. So we like giving back. We like showing people our mistakes and our learnings. And YouTube is obviously a great platform for that. So we'd love as much support as possible. And we'd also like to understand what you guys out there actually want to learn from us. Because if we've got a big, long list of the difficulty we find is actually coming up with things to talk about, because we're just so in it day in, day out. Having you guys basically crowdsourcing ideas for us would be fantastic. So if you've got a long list of things that you want to know about, then please drop them in the comments and we'll add it to our list of things to film. And value to add, hopefully, to your businesses.
Evening,
cool.
John.
Yeah, moving on to Sunset Court. So this is one of the schemes that we're converting an office to 4 flats and building a pair of semis in the car park. We've actually launched to market now on the 2 new builds. So you'll find them on Rightmove. They look like this. This is a CGI. I mean, these are all CGIs. It's 90% complete on site. We're tying up a few loose ends. The landscaping should start in the next couple of weeks. We've sold one of the 6 flats already, or 6 units already. We had 2 viewings last Saturday. We had another viewing this morning that I haven't got the feedback yet from. But I think these 2 Muse houses will fly off the shelf once they're finished. They're in a great location and right off the high street, and they will look absolutely brilliant.
Fabulous. On to the next one. Earlier this week, we got into heads of terms and then into legals with a new investor partner to come on board with a scheme that we are delivering in West London. The particular scheme is a office building that spans across about 4,500 square feet. It's currently was an owner-occupier office space with 2 retail units on the high street. And we are going to be going in for planning consent, full planning because of Article 4 direction, to create 6 apartments, 2 retail and 1 small office space. So we're taking just, I suppose, 3 unit scheme into 6 flats and 3 units still. We managed to agree equity investment partner on that scheme, so that's gone into legals. We have exchanged and planning has been submitted, so we're quite ahead of schedule on that one, getting in planning before we complete. You might remember we did that on the old Maltings, and we've actually done that in quite a few of our purchases to de-risk it for our partners. But that particular scheme has gone into legals with the equity investor, and we're dead excited to get that bought on the 3rd of March to get cracking on planning and or delivery. So stay tuned on that one as well. So we have also this week, speaking of finance, there's a very large development company based in the sort of home counties that realistically, I wouldn't necessarily say we were competing with them because we couldn't, because their cost of capital and their cost of build was so cheap. We have been speaking with them about a credit facility like a bank, so that's partnering with another development business that's got extremely good cash reserves to work with us on a delivery basis. They'll be stepping in almost like a first charge lender as a bank, and we're currently discussing a project with them in Oxfordshire to deliver 27 flats, and the facility will be 5.5 million. We will make up the difference in equity, and so that's been quite a positive conversation, and hopefully we should be doing the latter part of the meetings next week and getting that agreed. It's quite a big one for us because it's very rare that you have sort of evergreen relationships that you can keep doing more and more with once that initial relationship is built. Question from James: what specific article direction blocking and how are you getting around it? It was actually a really comical one, James, in the fact that literally the week before we exchanged on the site and we thought we could get permitted development prior approval on the site, Article 4 direction came in September in Hillingdon, so this is Hillingdon Borough, And in short, it obviously took us by surprise because you don't normally hear these things come through the woodwork. And it sort of did poo-poo our prior approval plan to go in for residential flats. Having said that, we're not scared of full planning applications. Normally, the worst case scenario, we just need to market the building to prove that it's not fit for commercial or its existing use. So it does delay things marginally. But in this borough, we don't think we're going to have an issue overturning that. So we're going in for full planning. We're obviously putting in a very comprehensive planning application with a planning consultant on board who's been helping us with that. And that is how we are overcoming that particular issue. On to the same scheme that we're referring to in West Drayton. We've got one occupied unit that we're currently in heads of terms to agree a new lease, and we've had 3 inquiries this week to rent the other retail space. So on that whole site, subject to us getting planning for 6 flats, we've got 3 spaces to let. One's already let, and we've had 3 inquiries on the other. So it's very positive and actually quite upbeat in that area in comparison to some of the other commercial stock that we currently lumbered with. Over to you, Ben. Solar. Hang on, I think you're on mute. Oh, classic.
Yeah,
How long would it take until we got him?
2023, and I'm still not unmuting. Yeah, it might not be relevant to people, but it's something that's going on at the moment. It's a personal thing, but it's actually I'm getting solar panels put on my house, basically. So it might be quite useful for people to understand that process and what's going on. And you know, I'm relatively clued up in sustainability through the stuff that I do with Aura and the energy ratings, EPC ratings, and renewable technology. So if anyone has got any questions about it, then feel free to answer. But this is a very crude model of my house. My house is the one on the right hand side where the PV panels are shown. It's a pair of semis, and we own obviously the right hand side. South facing to the most part. So we're looking to get 8 solar panels on the roof. The whole system is costing me around about 7.5 grand, excluding the scaffolding, which again is about £1,000 on top of that. So 8.5 grand for 8 panels. It's a 3.36 kilowatt system, which should do about 60% of my home electricity. Obviously, we've got electric cars as well, so some of that will be diverted to the cars. And I'm also in conversations with the electrician to try and wire it up to our water heater. So that if there is excess energy that isn't being used in the house, I want that to be diverted to the water heater from an immersion perspective to heat the water up instead of our gas boiler kicking in and costing us money from a gas perspective. So with any solar panel installation and PV installation, you want to use as much energy as you possibly can, because if you're buying it at say 25p and only selling it back at 5p, it just makes no commercial sense whatsoever. So you want to try and use as much of that energy as you possibly can. So yeah, a bit of an insight there. If anyone's got any questions about solar panels, then do let me know below.
It's comical. Ben's nickname in our company is Mr. Tesla, so that's right up his street.
Up my wheelhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, so some good success within Aura this week. We've had 3 planning approvals in the last 3 days for some of our clients, ranging from large single-story rear extensions to whole house kind of transformations, loft extension, side extension, rear extensions. I haven't had enough time to prepare to actually bring up some examples of what those planning approvals were, but maybe next week I can do so. One, you'll probably see if you follow us on social media. So go over to Aura Architecture across LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel as well. So if you want to see some of those schemes coming through the drawing board and then being delivered on site, head over to our YouTube channel and click subscribe. But maybe next week I can show some of those house extensions that we got planning approval for. We are due, and I'm hoping it's next week, due planning approval for a project called Colney Hatch Lane, which Aura has designed for XP Property. And that is quite a big development of ours up in North London in Muswell Hill that I'm super excited about. So the planning is due next week on that. So fingers crossed that comes through.
Question for you, Ben, from John. Did you find it easy getting Energy Network permission to add the solar on the roof?
I haven't dealt with any of that, if I'm honest. We've paid a solar installer to just come in and deal with everything from the DNO to the the connections, the electrical connections, connecting it all up. I mean, they were originally meant to sort out the scaffolding as well, but that fell on me after we had a few issues earlier this week. But yeah, I can't really answer that. Yeah, they've dealt with everything.
Good, cool. Another question from Justin, which I'm happy to answer. Chaps, what advice would you give to someone starting in development who doesn't have the upfront costs needed, e.g. planning applications, heritage statements, planning consultants fees and architects fees? We call those soft costs to get a site off the ground. Realistically, the way that most people start a development company is they think that you need all of that capital to start the project. What we try and focus on is we obviously have built a business which can spin off about 6 to 10 developments a year, but it didn't necessarily start there, and we did self-fund our schemes. What you find when you self-fund schemes is you still need more capital to do scheme B, scheme C, scheme D. So what I would suggest is try and get a backer on board, an investor partner, whether that's an investment or an equity partner, that can bring the finance. You're there to do the expertise, the management, the delivery, the design, everything such on the time aspect, and then the funds are coming in from the money aspect. What you can then do is build a scalable business that's sustainable without eating into your own pocket. And your limitation is technically, in my opinion, your investment and your skill, and not necessarily what's in your pocket. So treat it a bit more like a business. And how you would fund a business rather than necessarily a property or a project. That's how we focus on it. But the first few we did self-fund, but you get into a routine of building those soft costs into the scheme, selling that to investment, and then bringing investment into the projects. And then you're the time, they're the money. That's normally how we do it. That's our skill set, and that's what we bring to the table. If you do have capital yourself, I would say, reserve it for probably the more complicated or more riskier schemes. That's what we do. The more simple schemes with planning in place, with a backup scheme, they're a lot easier to get people on board and start small, because it's a lot easier to build trust on smaller schemes with equity partners, and then you can grow with them. That's definitely what I do. Hope that's answered your question, Justin. Last final point before we close. Central Suites closed on another HMO. This one is in Henley-on-Thames. It's existing 4-bedroom house, and Ben, if you go next, you can see the gorgeous interiors. It was a fairly straightforward purchase. We find it pretty difficult to buy residential properties over the last year or two because the market's been quite hot. So obviously you're currently looking at the B4s. But in
bathroom's good, Nick.
Yeah, the bathroom's good. The bathroom's not getting much changed. But yeah, the rest of it is interesting. So yeah, it will just be internal reconfiguration into a 5-bedroom house, and that's pretty much it. Sharing that we completed on another HMO. I think we're up to 31 properties under management now, and looking to grow that even more this year.
Nice. Yeah, so make sure you head over to Central Suites UK on Facebook, Instagram. You got YouTube as well?
Yes, but there's not as much media on there as ours.
And TikTok as well, right?
Yeah, we're Instagram and TikTok are probably two biggest.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, if you're not already following, then please head over and do so. I think that's pretty much the end of the list. So sticking to the half-an-hour timeframes that we're trying to, which is good. If there's anything that sort of resonated with you that we've spoken about and you still have further questions, then do comment below. We're going to be here almost every Friday if we can make it work, to just give a rundown of what we've achieved, what the learnings are that we've made that week. And we're here for you guys to sort of answer any questions. So if you've got any, do let us know. I've seen one just trickling in there.
I can answer that. So Justin, again, hi there, how are you doing? How did you fund/structure the HMO purchase and refurb? Really good question. So big shout out to Think Property Finance. We pretty much do all of our small deals sub 500,000 debt with them. Happy to intro them if anyone wants to contact me to speak with them. They're a boutique lender. They do developments, they do refurbs, and they do HMOs. They're based in Twickenham, but the way that we structure our deals with them is we find the house, we agree a price. They normally lend us about 65 to 70% of the acquisition price. The rest of the equity we need to put in. Once we put in the equity, we reserve a bit for stamp duty, legal fees, and all the costs that we need to get the site in our ownership. And then we keep a small buffer for the first phase of build. That's normally about 15 to 20% of the total build costs. And then what we do is we draw down the bank's funds in arrears. What I mean by that is we have to build £20,000 worth of work, get a monitoring surveyor on site. They sign off £20,000 worth of work, do a report to the bank give us another 20,000, and we go and go again until the project is complete. That is how we fund it. It tends to work out about 70 to 80% on cost, depending on the project, depending on valuations. But Think Property are a very pragmatic lender. Huge shout out for them. And if anyone wants an intro, please let me know and I can intro you to the relevant people.
Excellent. Cool. I think we're going to call it a day there, and hopefully see you this time at 5 o'clock next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, everyone. Bye now.
Bye-bye.